Hello, everyone. Welcome along to an episode of Championship Drill. It's been a while. We've been kind of busy, but we're going to catch up on some of this weekend's action. We're going to talk about some of the news since we were last with you and talk about some of the talking points, of course, over the weekend, as we always do as well. I suppose the big news, it's been a while, just after we did the last show, there was kind of a shock announcement, really, wasn't it? That John Eustace was let go
Yeah,
from Birmingham City for Wayne Rooney to come in.
I don't know how I feel about it because John Eustace was doing such a good job.
Unbelievable.
I think they beat
Yeah.
West Brom 3-1 and he was sacked the next day.
Yeah.
Lit-
And I mean, Rooney did a decent job at Derby County. There's no denying that. He did.
Yeah, yeah,
But didn't have a good record in America. It's not like they were like, oh, this guy's been brilliant in America. We're going to bring him in.
yeah.
Record wasn't good. He's now come in to Birmingham City when they were up in and around playoffs doing really, really well. And he's lost 3 of the 4 games he's been in charge of.
Yeah, and he could have lost yesterday as well if there was another five
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yesterday was the only point he's taken in 4 games.
yeah,
Um, I mean, I don't know. Is it when we were talking last time? Tom Brady had gotten involved, kind of
yeah.
in a small capacity, I suppose. Really, but I don't know. Is it his influence that they just want to name there? I don't know what's going on, but it's absolutely crazy what's after happening at Birmingham, and the fans can't be too impressed.
No, the owner takes a lot of the blame. They really they have to.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame. I like. I mean, as we said, we like Wayne Rooney, but this is not the right way to come back to
no,
the.
and it's a no win for him because they were going so well.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, the fact now that they've not started well under him just makes Rooney look like an incompetent manager,
Exactly.
which he isn't. I mean, but like you said, I think coming in this way was not the way to do it.
No, not
Uh,
at all.
because I thought he did a really, really good job with Derby. I know they ended up being relegated, but I mean, they were really up against it in terms of points, deductions, and everything like that
Yeah,
season.
and everything. Yeah,
And he almost kept them up, but it's been strange start for him.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the crowd can't be happy with the way they were going.
In other news,
Yeah,
Nigel Pearson was sacked as well. Uh,
yeah, poor old Nigel Pearson.
yeah, like
Um,
he was
he
always going
he
to
got
have
sacked
one
before the
point.
referees could get to him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was just a very bad. I can understand it because it was a desperate run. It really
it was
was.
a poor run, and not overly impressive yesterday in their victory against one of the worst teams in the division,
Yeah.
who were down to 10 men. So it wasn't the greatest of victories for Bristol City. Quick look on the manager odds to see who's going to be going in there, or who they certainly think. Steve Cotterill is the favourite at the minute. Nathan Jones, Frank Lampard, John Eustace, obviously. Um, Good managers.
Put Frank Lampard in there, they'd be in League Two.
Put Frank Lampard in there, they'll be relegated. Yeah, exactly. They'll be in League Two. They might be taken over then by somebody if they're
Yeah,
down in League Two. Yeah, Steve Cotterill's an interesting one.
yeah, he's been out of the game a long time though. Um,
Yeah.
was he with
Um,
before? I think he was. I think
what's
he,
that?
I think he was with there before. I think he was there before at Bristol City. I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, he was. He's been there before. I mean, where hasn't he been? Like, started in League of Ireland, of course, with Sligo Rovers was his first managerial job. But yeah, he was with Bristol City for a time before for 3 years or
He
so, I
must have been
think.
with about 100 clubs. I just keep thinking him.
Yeah, he's been with a lot. Like, I mean, I'll try and go through the clubs he's managed, let alone the clubs he played for. Um, he's
Yeah,
managed Sligo Rovers, like I said, Cheltenham Town, Stoke City, Burnley, Notts County, Portsmouth, Nottingham Forest, Bristol City, Birmingham City, and Shrewsbury Town. So he left Shrewsbury this year. Um,
that to me is a strange appointment if that goes through.
it is. I mean, he's the favorite, but he's not a. There's nobody who's really a hot favorite.
Yeah, yeah,
I think he's 4-1, and then Nathan Jones is 6-1, and Frank Lampard's 8-1, and John
Why
Eustace
not
is
bring
8.
in someone like a Saint John Eustace? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean he knows this division from this season. I think though, you like Nathan Jones, we know what he can do, or certainly what he did do.
Yeah,
Um, with where was he? With Luton Town. Before he left them to go
Mm.
to Southampton, wasn't it? Went to Southampton for a time. Didn't work out there for him, obviously. But a manager that knows the division as well. Frank Lampard, I mean, Derby County are still trying to recover from when he was in charge. John Eustace, Gary Rowett.
Yeah,
You
there'll
know,
be
I
a
mean,
lot more. There'll be a lot more links in the next few days.
yeah. I mean, like from the list that up there that we have, say, 5: Cotterill, Nathan Jones, Frank Lampard, John Eustace, Gary Rowett. You know, with Nathan Jones, John Eustace, Gary Rowett, Steve Cotterill, you've people who've good experience in the lower leagues.
So,
Gary Rowett knows this division. John Eustace knows the division. Nate Jones knows the division. Steve Cotterill somewhat knows the division. He hasn't been there in a while, obviously, like you said, in the championship level. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see. I
find
think.
Mick McCarthy's name is not on the list.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he usually is, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is like when it comes to championship. Like I think Bristol City now have a chance to push forward, and I wouldn't go near Cotterill if it was me.
Well, it's 10 clubs he's managed.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at Frank Lampard, and you think managed Derby County, and they say, "Oh, he did an excellent job at Derby County." He didn't do an excellent job at
but he
Derby
brought in
County.
like
He
10
spent
known players and
so
they were
much
screwed.
money at Derby County that they are still recovering from the amount of money he spent.
Brought in 10
And
known
he's
players and they were screwed.
yeah, and he spent ridiculous money. They're still recovering from that, and he didn't get them promoted.
And also, didn't he have someone that was who's that player he had? He's some quality player that's amazing right now. Oh, who was it again?
Yeah. Oh, he had Mason Mount with him.
Yeah, me, yeah,
He had
yeah.
Mason Mount at Derby.
£1 million player, yeah. That's
Yeah,
something, yeah. That's
kind of ridiculous. So he
crazy.
had all kinds of advantages at
Yeah.
the end of the day. And then you look at other
But what?
things that are like you look Everton. He was probably the worst manager in Premier League history.
Yeah,
Twice at Chelsea, where he was absolutely terrible. I honestly would be shocked if Frank Lampard ever works in football again, because I think you'd be mental to give him a job.
he'd be good as a coach for someone.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think he needs to, or if he's going to manage, I think he needs to do what managers should do, and a lot of ex-players should do, is they shouldn't be getting jobs on their reputation. They should
yeah.
have to build their careers again as if they're a player. Start lower down the divisions and try and work your way back up. That's what they should be doing.
But even there now, right? Say where's Chris Hughton? He he's not a
He's
bad choice.
managing Ghana.
Oh yeah, I know, yeah, but like he wouldn't be a bad choice to come back.
No, no, he wouldn't. I think Nathan Jones would be a fantastic shout for them.
Yeah, nice young manager, and he as well.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
bad at all. Not bad at all.
yeah. He's good with young players. Bristol City have some nice young players there.
Yeah,
Plays good football, good attacking football. The fans would like it.
yeah,
Then you have Eustace. Obviously, we were just talking about it with Rooney, sacked totally unfairly.
yeah. I still don't get that one. I really don't get that one at all.
Um, what about when you talk about someone being a coach, and there's a few there being mentioned? What about someone like John Terry, who's been a coach now at Villa, a coach at Leicester City?
Yeah, he's looking for a managerial job as well.
So I don't know. Do you take a risk on someone like him? After me just saying Frank Lampard should never work in football again.
The
But
problem
but at
is,
least but at least John Terry has done what you wanted Frank Lampard to do, which is coach for a little bit first, at least.
yeah, I think Lampard, if he really thinks he could be a good manager, should be down like at Wrexham or something, League Two.
Doing something where he can kind of hone his skills a little bit. Because, and to be fair to Frank Lampard, he tried his best. But I mean, you look at what happened the second time he was at Chelsea. Did
And
they
then
even win a game under him? And I
exactly.
mean, Everton are bad, but they were worse under him.
They didn't win a game, sure, in months.
Yeah, it's not good. A few other names that are just going to top up here, that are being kind of thrown about, kind of maybe not get it, maybe would, maybe wouldn't. Um, Danny Crowley, who was at Huddersfield, obviously in the Championship not long ago.
Yeah.
Got Lincoln City back into the Football League a few years back. Did good stuff at Portsmouth. Well, did okay at Portsmouth. Portsmouth fans would probably debate whether he did good or not, but that was a club in a mess. Paul Cook,
Not bad. I like Paul.
he was, when Dean Holden left, he was kind of touted to go in there. Ipswich and Chesterfield, he's obviously been with since then. Um, you know,
Like there is names. It's going to
there's
change
there's
today.
definitely a few around, and even some of the ones like you said there. Mick McCarthy. You know, you're talking about Mick
I don't know
McCarthy.
how the fans would feel about Mick coming in, but I
I
don't.
know. You think
Yeah,
of someone like Chris Hughton. Our buddy Neil Warnock doesn't have a job at the moment.
yeah.
Now that he's retired for the fourth time. I don't think he'd come out of management for Bristol City, but you never know.
You really
Um,
never know.
like if you were a Bristol City fan, who would you want in there?
It's hard to know. I like someone like that. I like Nigel Pearson, so I would prefer if he could stay, but
Yeah,
probably Nathan
but
Jones out of those lists. If
I'd absolutely agree with you. I think of those names we mentioned, if I had to pick one, it would be Nathan Jones. I think works well with young players, plays good attacking football, knows the division, did a great job with the Luton Town side, who weren't the best. Okay, they went up last season, but I
yeah,
mean, the few years before that, I mean, he worked miracles with them
yeah, exactly,
to get them to the position they are in now.
exactly. Well,
Um, Absolutely, that's what I want. I can understand some fans probably wanting the Frank Lampard or the John Terry and the big name at the club, and it would certainly boost the profile of the club a bit in the media and that. But yeah, I think Nathan Jones would be a great fit for that club.
again, to be fair, now all they want now is just someone to just focus on just getting results. They just can't get relegated. That's
No, and I don't think they will. I mean, I think they're solid enough position. I mean, they're 11th in the table. They're only 4 points off the playoffs. It's not like they're
no,
doom
but
and gloom in terms of their
you know
position.
how easy it can easily go sour.
Yeah, I mean, it can. It can very quickly. I mean, when I say they're 4 points off promotion, they're also 11 points off relegation.
Yeah,
It's not like they're, but I don't think they go down. I do think though that they need to make that decision really though, don't they, at the board level? Do they go for someone now like a Nathan Jones and give him everything and say, look, try and make the playoffs this season?
yeah.
Or do they go with somebody else and say, look, just keep us around mid-table, don't let us get into a relegation fight, and in the summer we'll have a think about what we're going to do going into next season. It's hard to know, but I'd be with you if I was a Bristol City fan and we appointed Nathan Jones tomorrow. I'd be absolutely delighted, and I would see it as a sign that the board are trying to
Like,
get us promoted
yeah,
this
just
season.
don't go down the Sheffield Wednesday route with Newton Muniz like that. Just that
No,
doesn't work. That doesn't
no,
work. Doesn't
no,
work.
no, and I do think it'll be a good one. So yeah, any more on the news side and the bosses side and things like that you want to talk about?
Ainsworth was sacked as well, wasn't he?
Huh?
Ainsworth sacked as well.
Ainsworth gone as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's another one. See,
Yeah.
that's another one.
There's a lot of managers go since he left. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Marty
love the man. We
Cuvietes
actually
took
love the man
over
on
it.
the
Yeah,
show. Like we really do. We think he's brilliant on this.
he is, and I mean he is great.
He's great fun. Like
Like, yeah. Um, I mean, you're bringing in a guy that's coming from Swedish football, and he's saying they start again. Um, I
they got
suppose they've only won 2 out of 14 league games. You can tell why the manager was sacked, obviously.
they lost like six
Um,
to go. I think.
yeah, and I mean the new manager comes in for the game at the weekend, and it starts okay for them. I suppose they've got to he says everyone starts from the start again, and it's a fresh start, and we'll see.
Will he be back will he be back at Wickham, do you reckon?
There's a chance, isn't there? I mean, Wickham aren't exactly flying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, it's going to be a strange one, isn't it?
I actually think it's a shame it didn't work out, but he's his own worst enemy because he was doing some weird stuff.
Yeah,
We've talked about it before with the dressing room antics that he was doing.
yeah, and said some very weird things that we covered in other shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
last season especially when he first came in.
I think he did
Didn't he say, "Oh, we only need to win like 2 games to stay up," and then they lost like 8 in a row?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like, well, okay, but when are you going to win these 2 games?
Did he bring like a saxophone or something into a dressing room once as well?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
And they lost 6-0 then the next game.
yeah.
I don't know.
Another club, I suppose, in trouble. We were talking about it a little bit. Is Norwich City, another bad defeat the weekend? They're sliding down the table. You're
Yeah,
looking then as well at someone like Ben Gibson, who's a very important player for them, is now out until after Christmas as well.
yeah.
At the back, I mean, he is the next manager to get sacked, isn't he? If
Looks like
things keep.
it doesn't look
I
well.
mean, given that Watford for some reason are just not sacking managers anymore.
Yeah.
I know it's five unbeaten now for Watford, but it's not exactly been 5 wins.
Contract.
Yeah, they gave him a new contract, and that was that. Yeah, it's very, very weird. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Like we said, but West Brom have been slowly moving up the table. We'll talk about them in a minute. I suppose we might as well go through the results all together and start talking about the teams that way by going through the results.
Yeah.
So we
Talk about
have.
Birmingham first, I suppose. We did that new manager Rooney.
Yeah. I mean,
almost got a result.
almost, yeah. Almost did it. So you want to start with that game, or will we start Friday night?
Oh yeah, Friday. Yeah.
There was the game Friday night that we forgot about. League leaders, Leicester City going down at home to Leeds team that are Leeds are starting to put a run together. They're starting to.
That was the thing. They were always going to struggle because they didn't know their best 11.
Absolutely.
They were putting out players there, and they weren't even going to be staying at the club, and it was just messy for about 2 months.
Yeah. It was nine unbeaten for Leicester going into the game. So massive win for Leeds, especially away from home. Pushes them up into third in the table, keeps pressure on Ipswich Town, who were certainly flying it compared to the other teams.
Yeah.
It kind of stops Leicester City running away completely with the league a little bit, even though I'm sure Leicester are definitely going to get promoted. I mean,
I don't think.
they're about half. There's 15 games gone. I mean, there's still bones of 30 games left, and they're about halfway to what they probably need points wise. Not quite halfway there, but I mean, you imagine 86, 87 points is going to be enough to go up.
Exactly.
So we'll wait and see what happens. So yeah, strange kind of a game.
Yeah. I actually missed it because I was away, but it was on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird one. I mean, Leicester probably dominated in terms of possession. Leeds definitely had the better chances. They really played well on the break, I thought. And when they had their little periods, when they had their few moments to get on top, they really created a lot of chances. Good chances, really, and I think deservedly got the win in the end. It's what Leeds did. I mean, Leeds basically let Leicester have the ball and just tried to hit them on the counter attack, and they did, and they won. So it's for the manager, he can't be happier with how the game plan went, I'd say. A manager I like as well, when you talk about managers that I like, Daniel Farke is someone that I really like. A manager too that knows how to get somebody out of this division. He's done it before.
I think Leeds have a great chance. It's going to be very interesting to see where everyone is at the end of the season.
It is, and I mean, if you take Ipswich Town and the mad season they're having out of the equation, it would be Leicester and Leeds would be the top two.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what you'd have expected. I think it's kind of what we expect start season. Maybe with Middlesbrough pushing them a bit more. Obviously the start they had was ridiculously bad, and they've slowed down again the last couple of weeks. But I mean, they did put in a good charge there for a while, and we'll come to Middlesbrough in a minute anyway. It's certainly not all bad news for them either. So yeah, so that was kind of the Friday night game. Then we move on to the one you were saying, Wayne Rooney's fourth game in charge. Looked like he's coasting to victory.
They threw it away. Like there was 10 minutes to go, they were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if they played another few minutes, they would have lost. I think their heads went after the one went in.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Wayne Rooney coming into this game, right?
Mm.
You've lost 3 in a row since you took over.
Yeah.
From a manager who was doing really, really well. And you're like, it's a home game. Who would you want to play? Ipswich have only won once in their 19 away trips to Birmingham previously. You're like, that's the one.
Yeah, and then things just went pear-shaped. It kind of shows as well, though, the dedication of Ipswich, like we talked about them, they score goals, and that will always keep them up.
Yeah, I mean, the goals they gave away were a bit silly.
Yeah.
Changes, Rooney made a couple of changes, seem to be going well for him. But like you said, they're lucky in the end they didn't lose the game.
Oh, they would have lost it if there's another few minutes. But the thing is, like, Ipswich always score goals. We've talked about this.
They do. I mean, they are goal scorers.
Yeah, they have goals in them.
And I mean, it was one of those where they came out in the second half, goal down half time, and Ipswich really went for it. And then they find themselves 2-0 down.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, well, look.
This is not their day. Yeah. It's not their day, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they created so many chances.
Yeah.
He made a triple substitution on 72 minutes. And then, within 7 minutes, 2 of the substitutes got a goal back. And then they got another one back to make it 2-2. And then they probably should have won it, like you said.
Oh, yeah. It's just all Ipswich at the end of it, sure.
Yeah. Birmingham hanging on, absolutely. And Rooney's in trouble. I mean, 1 point from 4 games. I mean, if that continues going in that kind of pace, they're going to be battling relegation soon.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's games taking fast. I think there's a game again Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the games just don't stop in the championship. We know that. They have 31 games still to play in the league. They're not going to stop. I mean, they have to be played.
Yeah, exactly. And if he loses again, like Wednesday night or Saturday or whenever next, the pressure is on.
We'll have a look ahead to them in a minute. Yeah.
Pressure is on. And
it is, absolutely.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if, we want John Eustace back? He was doing an alright job.
Yeah, I mean, it's madness, really. Yeah. We move on to Bristol City. Well, we talked about it a little bit, but their result yesterday.
Not great.
Curtis Fleming with the goal. Or Curtis Fleming, the manager, rather. Rob Dickey with the goal. Curtis Fleming taking over caretaker charge. A 1-0 win.
Yeah.
Against the Sheffield Wednesday team. How many times this season have Sheffield Wednesday had someone sent off in the first half? I mean, it might only be once or twice, but to me, it seems to be constantly happening to them.
Yeah, and Barry Bannon, who's an influential player as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be suspended now for a few games. They're so bad, aren't they, Sheffield Wednesday?
Do you know what? I feel sorry for them, but in a way, I don't after what happened with Darren Moore. But like,
yeah, we'll come to him in a minute.
Oh,
9 points from safety.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
No. No, they are up against a team that are really struggling in Millwall next. I mean, if Sheffield Wednesday are going to stay up, that's a game they have to win.
Yeah, 100%.
Home to Millwall. I mean, I think they lose to Millwall next week. They're next Saturday or whatever it is.
I think
they're in trouble.
They're pretty much going to go down, yeah. I would agree.
Not much to say about Bristol City, I suppose. We talked about it them enough.
Yeah.
Rob Dickey, I suppose, with the goal, he's scored their last 2 goals. That's an issue Bristol City have been having this season, I suppose, in general, is scoring goals. But again, it's like I said, it's not doom and gloom for them. They're only 4 points off the playoffs, and that was a good win for them to get yesterday, I suppose, after losing the manager. You don't want to do what Birmingham have done and just start losing matches after you get rid of your manager.
Yeah, exactly.
Darren Moore, who we just talked about, his Huddersfield side get a 0-0 draw with Watford.
Watford are just so hard to watch. They're just
and I mean they have
it's not good.
like the manager, I suppose. He was listening to him talk BBC after the game, and he was talking about how Watford, this is Ishmael was talking about how the players aren't taking enough risks, how there's a lot of square balls being played, and they're not taking enough risks going forward. It's like they're almost afraid to lose a game rather than go out and really try and win it sometimes.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating, I think, for Watford fans, because you're talking about a team that definitely one of the favourites to go up last season before a ball was kicked, because they just come back down. But this season, they're so off it. And they're, for once, not sacking a manager, but he's not getting the results.
No, I think, and the new contract as well, and all that hype about.
Yeah,
Oh,
like I said, they can talk about, it's 5 games unbeaten, but like they're not 5 wins.
I thought it was, yeah.
Darren Moore, like, doing everything to try and keep Huddersfield up, which I think will be his greatest ever achievement if he can keep Huddersfield up, because they're not good. Hammered last week by Leeds. Really, really, really tired looking at the end of the game. He talked about how the crowd really helped spur the team on in the last 10 minutes. An even enough game, I suppose. You can't really say
No,
Watford deserved to win it. Watford had all the ball, but like even their manager said, they did nothing with it.
that's it.
A couple of chances for both sides. It's one of those where either team could have nicked it 1-0, but a draw is probably a fair result.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything more to say about Huddersfield or Watford before we move along?
No, it's just Watford are just, I don't know, they drive me mad. I can't imagine the fans.
Yeah.
There's just so much potential, but there's just so much wasted. Again, he's probably tearing his hair out when he's as well, because with his they're not taking risks. I guess you can't. What's the word looking for? You can only teach so much.
Yeah.
And show them so much. They have to do it, like.
Yeah. They do. Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to another team that are without a manager, Millwall, after Gary Rowett left, obviously, a few weeks ago. Really unlucky in this game, I thought, Millwall. It's what, 5 games without a win now or something like that, though?
Yeah, they're on a very, 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 very poor
One
run.
win in 8.
Yeah.
Nathan Jones are also being linked to the Millwall job.
Yeah.
I honestly think Bristol City, Millwall, I think if either of them can get him, you got to try and get him before the other person does.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like, for me, Southampton deserve to win this game. They absolutely battered them, let's be fair. But when you've been withstanding that kind of pressure and you've been on a bad run, to lose a goal in stoppage time
just batters everybody's confidence.
Especially at home.
Yeah.
It really does. And what about Fraser scoring again off the bench?
Yeah, he was also. We said he was a good signing when they signed him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great signing.
He's starting to become a super sub for them. I don't know if there's anyone ever want to be a super sub. I suppose Solskjaer was kind of the greatest example of that, of a guy that was, good off the bench, but terrible it seemed to be whenever he started.
Yeah.
But Fraser seems to be doing that. I'm not saying Fraser's terrible when he starts, but he certainly seems to score more goals when he comes off the bench than he does when he starts a game. So we'll wait and see.
Game though, real.
What's that?
Wasn't a brilliant game. It was.
No, it wasn't a brilliant game. I think there was lots of chances that Southampton had. Not brilliant chances. Um, I think Will Smallbone, the Irish international, had a great game for them. He's been having a good season. And I think Armstrong missed a few chances you'd usually expect him to put away. Ones where he didn't even test the keeper. You can certainly have a bad day, and Armstrong has been so good for them. You'll forgive him having a bad day, I suppose. Another team, kind of quietly, like West Brom, who we'll talk about later, and like not so much like Leeds, because Leeds haven't been quiet about it. Southampton have been slowly just picking up results,
Yeah.
getting themselves right up there into the playoffs again,
The
and
thing is,
trying to push for that
if
second
they don't
spot.
come up, if they don't come up this season, they'll find it very hard next year.
They will, and I mean they are. You don't ever say someone's a one-person team because they're not. And like I said, Smallbone's playing well. Fraser's been getting goals off the bench, but like Adam Armstrong is such an advantage in this division. It's almost like having Erling Haaland in the Premier League. Um, he just scores goals for fun at this level, a bit like Mitrovic used to do for Fulham whenever they were in the division. Um, so to have Adam Armstrong, who just I don't know what it is. Some players in the Championship just score so many goals, and then they go to the Premier League and they struggle a bit. And he's one of them.
Yeah.
He's so good. Um, so we'll wait and see what happens with him and with Southampton. But Millwall, yeah, I mean they need to get a new manager in as quick as possible. Permanent manager in, you would think. And if they can get Nathan Jones in there, that wouldn't be too bad for them either. But I think whoever misses out on Nathan Jones, be it Bristol City or Millwall, they're going to be disappointed that they didn't get him. What about Plymouth and Middlesbrough?
That was a surprising result. I didn't see this.
Yeah, I mean, Plymouth just will not stop playing the way that Plymouth play football.
Like, yeah, they're like
Um,
they were like Blackpool
they,
when they were in the Premier League that year. They just went for
they're
everything.
just having a go. And I mean, they're 6 points from relegation, which I think they'd have taken after 15 games of the season, because they were definitely one of the favourites to go down, because you're like, you come up playing this football in the division above and you're going to be cut apart. And to be fair, they do ship a lot of goals as well. But they play some entertaining stuff at times.
Yeah, it's just, they have goals in them and they have goals against them. It's mad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, they came from twice. They came twice from a goal down to come back. I thought
it's tough
Middlesbrough. I
going.
thought Middlesbrough had it when it was 3-2.
Yeah, and I wonder did the game midweek take it a little out of Middlesbrough, because obviously they're playing League Cup midweek.
Yeah, 100%.
A little bit out of them, but they've been on a bit of a run, Middlesbrough, in the last few weeks. Obviously, this would be disappointing for them, but certainly going to be pushing for that playoff spot again. You'd imagine that something seems to have clicked for them.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
delighted because it was a very, very bad start.
it's one of those games though. Like if you're Michael Carrick and like you've been on a good run, you can't complain about the run they've been on. It's one of those games though where you're like, we've done more than enough to win this match. We've had good chances. We scored 3 goals away from home.
They made 3 mistakes and it's 3-all. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be very frustrating.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're frustrated that you drew, but you have to be happy with how you played. It must be a weird one to try and wrap your head around, where you've played really well to the point where you've scored 3 goals away from home. You've played really well. You've created a lot of chances, and like you said, you make 3 mistakes and it's 3-all.
Pretty much. It's bad.
So like you're upset about the mistakes, but you can't be upset about the performance overall. So it's must be a weird one for a manager and for players when those kind of games happen.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, Plymouth though must be delighted with the season they're having so far.
Yeah, like they were one team that was very hard to predict because I didn't know whether they were going to.
Yeah, I mean you didn't know because they were so good last season, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you're always thinking, are they going to come up and be a bit tighter at the back, or are they going to just do what they did in League One and just try and score loads of goals? And it seems like they're trying to score loads of goals. and some weeks it's working, some weeks it's not working for them. But deservedly so, they're not in the bottom three. They're a little bit of a gap there. I think I would say you look at the bottom three in the Premier League this season, and you're thinking those are three bad teams. I think if you look at the bottom three in the Championship this season, you're thinking those are three bad teams. QPR, we'll wait and see what happens with the new manager. Rotherham, always going to struggle.
Yeah.
And you can't lose big players the way they have.
Rotherham are the only team in the bottom three that could get a win. That's the only.
And then you look above them and you're looking at Coventry. You expect Coventry are going to be able to turn it around at some point.
Yeah,
Plymouth, who knows? I mean, Plymouth could easily lose 5 in a row, the way they play, but they could equally win 3 of the next 5 as well. You would know. Millwall will get a new manager in. You imagine that'll help them.
Well, I think just there now,
Norwich,
there's been news on
that. Get a new manager.
There's been news on the Millwall manager in the last hour.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be Joe Edwards.
Ooh, that's an interesting call.
Under 20 manager of the England team, Joe Edwards.
That is a very interesting call.
Yeah. It's not confirmed, but it's pretty much is when everyone's talking about it.
Yeah. He's England's under 21. England under 20s boss rather, not their under 21s.
Yeah.
Used to also coach at Chelsea, I think, didn't he? Joe Edwards.
Yeah.
So he'd know, he knows that part of the world as well. That's a very interesting call.
It could be a good call. Really
could. I think so. While we're on it, we might as well, you talk about Plymouth Argyle, obviously that's one of the places he made his name, Joe Edwards, playing for Plymouth, so they'll know him very, very well. It's a really strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, again there, he beat out competition from the guy who was just sacked by Rangers, wanted the job apparently, Beale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting one. I think that could be they've been looking for a few weeks now. It's going close to 3 weeks now since Rowett left. Yeah.
They need to get him in though quickly. I think his first game is going to be Coventry once the international break kicks in.
Yeah. Again, a player that's used to working with younger players as opposed to older players. Millwall, a few young players. They're a bit of an older squad as well, though. Yeah.
You don't really have many young players, Millwall.
So it's going to be an interesting one to see. But Millwall needs something.
Seeing where this goes.
Yeah. So Plymouth Argyle, like we said, Plymouth doing pretty well for themselves. Anyway, Plymouth going well, and Borough going well.
Preston going well.
Big win for Preston, wasn't it?
I love when Alan Brown scores as well.
Yeah.
I know it was only a penalty, but still.
He's the guy you just want to see play in the Premier League at least for a season, isn't he?
Exactly.
And not just because he lives around the corner from you.
I know, yeah, but you just want it to happen,
because he's been very, very loyal to Preston, to be fair to him, because he's definitely someone who could have moved up.
Yeah. Easily. So he's 28, 29 now, so the next 3 years are vital.
They really are. Coventry, I don't know what to make of them. They're well coached, well managed. Obviously haven't had a good start to the season, or certainly the start they'd have wanted. They don't do well at Preston, let's be fair. 22 games without a win.
That's
it's definitely their bogey ground.
Yeah.
22 games without a win there. It's one of those, though, you take the lead on 33 minutes and you go in at halftime, you're 2-1 down. The manager's not going to be happy with those last 10 minutes of the first half.
Mark Robbins was raging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Coventry should be pushing for the playoffs.
Yeah, last season they overachieved.
Yeah.
This season they're underachieving.
Yeah, I mean Matty Godden is their top scorer,
Yeah, they did
and
sell
they haven't really
they
replaced
sold their main
Gyökeres.
forward. Yeah, they sold Gyökeres.
Um, Preston though scoring goals, and Preston had their bit of a blip, and they seem to be coming out the other side of it again. To see Preston sitting in the playoff places after 15 games is some good going, because usually that wouldn't be the case
Yeah,
because they're so up and down. But they're going to find it hard, I think, to stay in there.
I think so.
Um,
they're
you look
minus.
at the teams chasing them, and like one of the biggest surprises of the teams chasing them are a team that we'll come to later, and the other nil all draw. But I mean, what a season Cardiff are having!
Unbelievable.
I
Um,
mean, they were one of my favourites to be relegated. They were so poor
yeah,
last
I
season.
had I had them down to be in the bottom three as well.
I
Uh,
mean, my God, what a season they're having! Just despite the two of us.
you know,
But I mean, you look at Preston; they've got the likes of Cardiff, the likes of Sunderland, the likes of Middlesbrough, Bristol City, Hull, whoever. Hull and another team having a great season, by the way. They're all chasing down Preston.
Birmingham as well
Uh,
to get their things.
Birmingham as well. I mean, if Birmingham were right up there until they decided to sack their manager.
Yeah,
Um, but if Rooney can get it right, who knows what'll happen.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, this game though would have been 0-0 last season. There's something happened to Preston. They're scoring goals and they're leaving in goals.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
5 goals.
yeah. I mean, there was a time when all they seemed to be doing was signing forwards, Preston, and none of them seemed to be scoring goals from. Um, I think though, if you're a team like Coventry, like a couple of the goals they left in were not good goals to let in. If you're
No,
a team that have lost, like this is four in a row now they've lost.
yeah,
I think mentally it kind of becomes an issue when you go behind in games. Um, it can be very hard to get yourself going again.
yeah.
It's like they say, winning becomes a habit. Losing can become a habit as well, and
Oh yeah,
it becomes this almost fear of going behind that makes you very very nervous.
yeah. Very anxious. Yeah, they want.
Yeah, and you don't play with that freedom. And I think Coventry are going through that a little bit, and I think the manager is really going to have to work hard at them, because that next international break, even though it's probably just around the corner
I
again.
think there's one more round.
Um,
There's one more round of fixtures, and then it's on. Then so 2 weeks.
yeah, so I mean, if it's not sorted by them, at least he'll have then to do it.
Yeah,
But it's yeah, I mean, he's really got to work on the training ground to try and boost the confidence a bit. Um, so yeah, very
yeah.
very good though.
And then Rotherham QPR.
Yeah, Rotherham QPR 1-1. It doesn't do either of them any good, really.
No, no, not really.
Um,
Not brilliant. Um,
Almost a dream start for new manager. Luke chimes in there.
yeah, yeah. Unlucky though. Rotherham again are very much win 1, lose 6.
Yeah, I mean they're in trouble.
Yeah. So they shouldn't have even. They barely stayed up last season.
Yeah, and I mean they are a team that do tend to yo-yo between League One and the Championship anyway. Um, then you look at them losing some of their better players. Obviously Chindozi Agbene,
Yeah.
one of the local lads here to us. Big loss to them.
Yeah.
Um,
They're not just go and score goals. They just don't like. There's no
no,
thing
no,
about it. Like
they
they,
don't. And QPR as well, I think, are struggling. And I think a lot of it too is their players are struggling. I know Chair did well here and he scored a goal, but you look at like Chris Willock, who had a chance in this game, I know, but I mean he was so good for them last season.
yeah,
He's not kind of living up to what he did last season, and he's not the only one. There's a lot of them that way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And Chris
And
Wilson, he was unreal before the World Cup last year.
unbelievable. I mean, you were talking about like what a signing he's been from, and then he's just not been at it since
Yeah.
to the level he was before the World Cup. I'm not saying he's been terrible, but he was so good before the World Cup last
Was
year,
he? Yeah,
like you
he was
said, and then
scoring every second game. Yeah, he was scoring every second game.
um, you know, but yeah, it's always
Yeah,
nice to see Asmir Begovic, I suppose, playing as well. goal in games. 97-year-old Asmir Begovic, as he must be now. How old is he? Or he
Uh,
was playing when I was a kid.
he must be 40, I'd say.
He's gotta be. I mean,
Uh,
he's gotta be close to that.
36.
He is not 36.
30,
He's 36, I'd say. When I was 36.
36.
Nah, he's got to be mid-50s at least, I'd say. Um,
That's bad. 30, yeah.
yeah, fair
40,
play to him. He's been around a long, long time anyway. Yeah, not a lot to say, I suppose, about this game. It's one I didn't see much of other than a few of the highlights.
It's the next game, really. Stoke and Cardiff.
Stoke and Cardiff was fairly boring 0-0 draw. But like we said, they've been on such a good run.
Yeah. Alex Neil said it was a fair result because both teams kind of just went at it and there was none to it.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those games where everything happens in the middle of the park and nothing else really happens.
I think the big thing here is Cardiff didn't lose, and I'd say the manager is very happy with that.
Yeah, and I mean Stoke as well. You know, it was one of those where like they didn't want to lose either at home. You know, they're both on decent runs essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
So neither really wanted to lose, but it was a game where you couldn't say either team deserved to win it. You know, there was very few good chances, you'd say, in the match. I don't know what the XG was for each team, but I can't imagine the XG was pretty high.
It was one shot on target, 4 shots on target.
Yeah, I mean, and they weren't great shots on target. From what I remember.
It wasn't a brilliant game.
You know, there was an awful lot of shots being fired into Rose Ed. Like, there was certainly a lot of caginess about it. Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot to say. I suppose Cardiff on a good run. Stoke on a good run. They both maintained their unbeaten kind of runs, so that's kind of helpful. Another 0-0 draw. There was an awful lot of them yesterday, wasn't there?
Yeah, as well was a 0-0 draw, but there's a little bit more life to this one.
A little bit. I mean, Charlie Patino, who I think, you know, I know he's a player Mikel Arteta at Arsenal rates really, really highly. He's been really, really good for Swansea, but he kind of lost the head a bit yesterday.
2 yellow cards.
And deservedly so, it has to be said.
To be fair, they were absolutely hammered at home. Sunderland battered them, but Swansea should have won because they missed a penalty.
Yeah, it would have been mental, wouldn't it? It's kind of like was it 70% possession and like 25 shots Sunderland had, and then Swansea almost win it.
Yeah, Lowe missed a penalty in the first half, but like it's just like 25 shots. Well, I'd be more worried now if I was the manager of Sunderland because 3 on target, 25.
I would too. And it was a really weird game in that, and I think both managers said it. I think Michael Duff and Tony Mowbray both made comment on Sunderland were better when it was 11 against 11.
Yeah. That happened.
When Swansea were down a man and had to defend, it became much harder for Sunderland.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
It's weird how it happens.
Yeah, it really is. But Swansea have slowly been creeping up the table. As well. Sunderland as well are doing okay. I mean, it like you said, it's one of those where if you're the Sunderland manager, you're like, oh my God, how did we not win this? But then it's like, we could have lost it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you kind of escape with the draw, but they can't be happy. I mean, it's not like Patino was sent off after 78 minutes. He was sent off after half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, 60 minutes against 10 men, even away from home, you should be winning that game. Especially, you know, Sunderland are a good team. They're one of the best teams in the division, to be fair.
They're in form, exactly.
But it's, their finishing was shocking, though.
On to West Brom.
And I mean, obviously, regular listeners will know that your dad is a big West Brom fan. He's got to be happy with how they've been going lately.
Yeah, after a dodgy start, things have finally started to come around. I think it's their third win in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they're up into the playoffs. They're only 2 points behind Leeds when you think of how good Leeds have been going.
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
Um,
they're doing well. Like
yeah,
they have scored goals as well. That would be
yeah.
his big thing.
It was
Yeah,
kind of a weekend of bogey grounds, though, wasn't it? I mean, this is 7 defeats in a row for Hull going to West Brom.
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. What is it about some grounds, do you think, for some teams? Is
I
there like
don't.
a mental block of, oh, we're behind here again?
It's definitely a
We
mental,
always lose here.
definitely a mental block. It's like that old thing with Old Trafford years ago. You'd lose when you know you're going there. You'll already lost.
Yeah, you're almost like a goal down before the ball's kicked.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, 7 defeats in a row to West Brom, like at home, like 7 away defeats for
Yeah,
Hull going to West Brom. Um, Big win too because Hull have been on a decent enough run. I mean, they're having a good season. Um, Again, silly mistakes for the goals. So
yeah, oh yeah, big time. Um, but you know what? I'm just delighted now that they're just
yeah,
back on winning ways.
yeah,
Because it was such a bad start. And I was going like they're not going to get anywhere, but I don't know. They look good.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like they were speaking after the game about how he loved the pressing for the first goal. Um,
yeah. I mean, I thought West Brom were impressive in this match. I have to say. That said, I thought Hull weren't too bad either. I mean, I don't like on the like quality of chances. Probably West Brom deserved it, but it was more mistakes I think that Hull made.
yeah,
I don't think they deserve to lose 3-1 though. I don't think they were that far off it.
it was a very close game to be fair.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I mean Hull, I mean the manager says they were on top for 90% of the game. They switched off for 10%. I'm not quite sure that's accurate. But they definitely did make a couple of mistakes, bad mistakes that cost them. But as we've seen in other matches, you have to take your chances. Sunderland didn't take their chances. Other teams didn't take their chances at the weekend. West Brom did take their chances when they got them.
yeah,
Like
and
if somebody makes a mistake and gives you a chance, you still have to put it back in the net. They did that, and they have to be delighted with the run they're on.
yeah, exactly.
Um, Hull though have to be pretty happy with how the season has gone so far for them as well.
Yeah, received
23 points from 15 games. 13 points clear of relegation, which would have been their ultimate step. I know at the start of the season, the two of us fancied Hull to not be involved in a relegation battle, not necessarily make the playoffs, but they signed very, very well. Very smart signings, very smart loan signings.
yeah,
I think Liam Delap has been brilliant for them.
yeah, very very
Um,
good match. So yeah,
on loan, obviously from Manchester City, but the likes of Tufan and they've signed good players. They really did. Connolly as well, who's been okay for him. I know he's been out of the team a little bit lately, but he's been scoring goals for them as well.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Hull will be happy enough. I think won't they with the season? Obviously, not happy with yesterday and losing 3-1. West Brom have got to be delighted, and your dad must be very very happy. And I think we've said it before when they've gone on runs. In Carlos Corbrand, they've got a manager who knows the division very well, and we say that about a lot of managers, but it makes a huge difference in the championship.
yeah. It does. It
Eh,
really really does.
because it is this like 3 games a week, for a lot of weeks, especially once you get up near Christmas and into the New Year.
Yeah,
You're playing like 7, 8 games a month in the league. And you need a manager who's used to that kind of thing because you're not talking about massive, finances at some of these clubs. You're not talking about, squads where you've got 30 international players. So it does take a lot of management to kind of rotate the squads around. It's not quite back like the old days. I was listening to Liam Brady has a new book out,
oh
and
yeah,
not to plug Liam Brady's new book or anything because he's certainly not paying us to plug his new book. But back in the days when Liam Brady first broke into the Arsenal team, were the days when you had one sub.
yeah,
Like not that you could bring on one sub, which you could only bring on one sub, but you were literally allowed to name one sub. So you had 11 players and one sub. So,
Yeah.
so I find it funny sometimes when I hear the guys these days giving out about you're putting too much strain on the footballers and too much on this, and we're playing too many matches and blah 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 blah. And you know what? Maybe they are, but I mean, let them go back and play in the 70s and 80s, or even before that when you weren't allowed any subs,
Yeah. Yeah.
and see how they get on then. At least now with the 5 sub rule, you can rest players a little bit, but you have to have 5 players you can bring off the bench as well. Not every championship team has that. Anyway, that's enough about that. Go out and buy Liam Brady's book, I suppose, is the message there.
The last game then, Norwich and Blackburn today.
Norwich and Blackburn today. Like you were saying, pressure on David Wagner. A strange game. I mean, yes, Blackburn were down to 10 men, but they were 3-0 up at the time.
Yeah.
4 wins and 5 for Blackburn, who had been on a terrible run. Let's be honest. They were on a bad run before this good run. But it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not looking good, is it, for Wagner? I like the guy, I really do.
I'm looking at the table and it's only 6 points off the playoff area.
Yeah.
I think he's like.
But I think it's not even just this season's been bad. But I think you look at him, his record since he took over isn't great. 39 games, 14 wins, 18 losses.
Yeah.
Which, if you want to do the maths, works out at 32 matches, which means he also has 7 draws in there. It's not great, you know. It's not exactly relegation form, but it's certainly not playoff form. And to lose again at home. I mean, he's probably the favourite to get the chop next, I imagine, in the division.
Yeah, very little wins. They don't look like a threat at all.
No.
Next. Yeah, so it's all kind of up in the air, really, with him, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, he's under massive pressure. I mean, he was even asked about it after the match today. And you're under pressure when the media are asking you about if you fear for your job or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, 2-0 down after 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty poor.
On a big game, it's on TV. It's on TV. You're 2-0 down after 15 minutes, I should say. But yeah,
and at home
it's not great.
And at home as well.
At home, everyone should be up for it. You're 2-0 down early. You're 2-0 down at half time. You're thinking, big second half now, get a nice early goal. We're right back in it. And then 4 minutes in the second half, you're 3-0 down. And then, Wharton gets sent off after 54 minutes. So you've got the better part of half an hour now, or better part of 40 minutes, I should say, against 10 men. But you just can't get that first goal back. And, eventually, obviously, they got one in stoppage time, a bit late then. But it's not a good look for Norwich.
No, not at all.
You've got 40 minutes. Even if you're 3-0 down, 40 minutes against 10 men, you'd expect them to, hopefully have gotten a goal a little soon.
They are a good side.
Yeah. And they have the players. They really do.
Yeah.
Blackburn, though, it's very young team Blackburn have. There's going to be these kind of runs usually, isn't there, when you get a young team, where they go on these runs of they'll win like 7 out of 8, and then they're quite capable of going on a run of losing 3 of the next 5. When you've got a young team together, because it can be tough, and these runs can be tough on the legs. Do you think Norwich are going to stick with the manager? I mean, should they stick with the manager?
Well, they should for the next few games, at least. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one midweek game this week, which is a game that was called off earlier in the season, which is Rotherham are playing Ipswich. Rotherham are at home to Ipswich on Tuesday. Then Blackburn play Preston on Friday Night Football. So Norwich, if you look ahead to next weekend, which, as you said, is the last weekend before we take another break, which is absolutely criminal because it seems like we just came back from one. Norwich are away to Cardiff. It's not an easy fixture.
No, but the thing is, if they win that, they're only 4 points off.
It is madness. It is, and the international break will surely help.
Yes.
The international break can be great if you're under pressure for restructuring the team. The fear of the international break as well is you have 13 days between the 11th of November and the 24th, which is the Friday night. So you're 2 weeks really before most teams play. So in that 2 weeks, it's quite easy for you to be sacked, spend a few days bringing your manager, and the new manager has a week to work with the players before it comes in. So it's always tempting if you're going to get rid of a manager to do it during the international break.
Exactly. But I think if he loses to Cardiff, he could get sacked.
I think he probably will. I'm not saying he should be. I do think he will though.
Yeah, so just go through the fixtures.
Yeah.
Cardiff, Norwich, Coventry, Stoke could go either way.
Yeah.
Hull, Huddersfield.
Yeah.
Probably Hull, maybe. I think Huddersfield are on a bit of a. He hasn't really found the blocks, has he?
No.
Maybe he thought maybe the job is not up. Maybe I don't want to see another manager get sacked, but could this
it happens. It happens.
Could it come at Christmas where he's going?
Absolutely. We have a quick look ahead.
Yeah.
We can. So Rotherham, Ipswich midweek. Chance for Ipswich, I suppose, to do something, but midweek games are always iffy, as we know. Blackburn, Preston, Friday Night Football, that has the makings of a good game.
Yeah.
It's the kind of game Preston need to win if they're serious about going up.
Yeah.
Sunderland play Birmingham City in the Saturday lunchtime kickoff. Wayne Rooney could be, still looking for that first win. If he goes 5 without a win,
I know it's crazy. It really is. Like,
I mean, how long do they let it go?
I think he'll be there till Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if he wins 1 out of 12 games, say, I'm not saying he will.
It's possible, though. You could be right.
Yeah, it's like how long do you let that go? Cardiff against Norwich, like we already briefly spoke about. That's not where Norwich want to be going when they need a result.
Yeah.
Coventry home to Stoke, hard one to call. Stoke have been on a good run though, but Coventry at home are pretty well organised usually. Hull against Huddersfield, you'd imagine Hull at home should walk that, but hard one to call sometimes.
Yeah.
Ipswich then have a second tricky game against Swansea, who've been going okay. Leeds against Plymouth, that Jesus Christ, that could be 9-8.
It could really, really, really could be.
So banker 0-0, I'd say, now that I said it's going to be 9-8. Middlesbrough against Leicester, that's a tasty game, the way both teams have been going.
Yeah.
Especially with Borough at home. QPR against Bristol City. Yeah, interesting to see how things go. QPR have a new manager. Bristol City will likely, I would suggest, have a new manager by then.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll wait for the international break. Hard to know.
Yeah.
Millwall away at Sheffield Wednesday. Millwall, like I said, realistically, Millwall have to win that one to kind of get themselves going. Maybe they'll have a new manager by then. Sheffield Wednesday, we already spoke about it. For me, it's must win for them. They have to win that game if they're going to have any chance of staying up. And I know that's crazy to say when there'd still be 30 games left, because essentially they could still realistically win the league from that position. But they're 9 points adrift. You don't want that to get to like 10, 11, 12, and then start becoming 15, 16, 20, because then you've no hope.
Yeah.
Southampton, West Brom, that's a tasty one.
Yeah.
Watford
very hard to call,
against Rotherham. Rotherham's second game of the week is away to Watford. Tricky one. And then we come back, Rotherham again at home to Leeds. Will be the Friday Night Football. When we come back after the international break, stupid international break that nobody wants, and why the hell they have to have 3 of them in the first half of the season is ridiculous. But there you go anyway. That's just the way things are. At least we don't have a World Cup this year where we have no football for like 8 or 10 weeks or whatever ridiculous amount of time it was last season.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's been interesting. I suppose we'll be back next week after the weekend's fixtures before another international break. Sadly, just double checking if there's any breaking news before we go. If any manager has been suddenly appointed. If Frank Lampard, despite my pleas, is back in football. it doesn't look like it at the moment. Sadly, no.
Yeah. No.
Nobody, no news.
No.
There you go. No news is good news, I suppose.
Yeah.
All the managers keep their jobs for another week.
Mhm.
All right. We will leave it there, I suppose, folks. We'll be back with you again next week.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening as always. And yeah, we will be back with you after the weekend's action.